This time on the Q Division podcast, it's a very special secret meeting as we discuss the state of the James Bond film franchise.
This episode, have the billionaire supervillains won?
Is Bond going to be Spider-Man or a Fantastic Beast?
And Helen Mirren, what do you think?
All that and more on the Q Division. Hello, agents. Welcome to another episode of the Q Division. I'm Gavin, and I've seen all the James Bond movies.
I'm Chelsea, and I've seen some of the James Bond movies.
And this is a very special episode of the Q Division. We are doing a top secret breakdown of everything that's been going on for James Bond, and mostly just kind of having a hush-hush conversation, a need-to-know conversation between the two of us about it. Because, Chels, you've only been exposed to the franchise in its earliest incarnation at this point, but I'm very curious as to what your thoughts are about what's happening in the James Bond kingdom.
It's weird that I now have thoughts about the James Bond kingdom other than why did that bad Sam Smith song win an Oscar a decade ago? Like, truly, before that, it's like, oh, the Adele song was good. The Sam Smith song was bad. And then just like blank slate. Now it's just like people send me news articles, and truly since the Academy Awards, people have been messaging me about James Bond because too much is happening. Also, the Oscar performance. The only thing we need to say is I support Adele and Shirley Bassey not leaving their houses. I am that. Do not make them leave for the Oscars. Nobody needs that. They don't get paid for that, I don't think.
Oh boy, that was an entire mess. I'd completely already forgotten it, but I also don't really watch the Oscars, so I had to go out of my way to see that. Before we get fully into this, I do want to mention that the Q Division's top secret mission is to take a deeper look at the history and impact of the James Bond films and other media through a queer lens. Speaking of, the Q Division is a proud member of the Glitterjaw Queer Podcast Collective. You can find out more about Glitterjaw and their roster of shows that run the gamut of queer media at glitterjaw.com. This is, like I said, it's a special. We've not watched a film for this episode. We will continue our normal coverage with our next episode, which I believe is You Only Live Twice. Buckle in for that one, folks. But I did want to hold these special episodes every now and then just so we could talk about what's sort of going on, because it really feels like in the last month there has been a new James Bond news story every single day.
Why?
Yeah, it's shockingly. Most of this started at the beginning of the year with the highly publicized feud that was going on between Barbara Broccoli and Amazon, James Bond's current home. And apparently this sparked a inner war amongst them that led to Jeff Bezos basically saying, we will pay you anything in order to take the reins of this franchise that your family has held in film from time immemorial, essentially. And they did. They reportedly paid Michael G. Wilson and Barbara Broccoli close to $1 billion for this franchise.
I mean, I did famously, I'm going to call it a skeet today, because Phoebe Waller-Bridge has had a deal with Amazon for like 6 years, but they've not produced any of her projects in that time. But they still had to pay her. She re-signed. Luckily, it's not an exclusive deal anymore. And I famously am like, girl, keep scamming, keep robbing. So it's one of those, I'm glad the producers be scamming, be robbing. But also, this does feel like my fault. I am taking full responsibility for this Amazon thing because I need to stop making jokes. I know I'm powerful. I've done this before. I manifested a whole new soap opera over 1.5 years ago. It happened. Like, it's on TV. It's doing good. I should not have joked about James Bond because now we're in Darkest Timeline.
Yeah. Also, that soap opera's already having its very first James Bond style recasting I saw. So I was like, wow.
I support soap opera recastings.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's fine. It's so normal to me. Also, the new guy's so hot. We're leaving this in. Everybody on Beyond the Gates is hot.
Yeah, no, I agree. Truly, everybody. And honestly, there was a slapping in the first episode. No, it wasn't even a slap. It was a fucking punch. There was a punching in the first episode, and I was just like, soap opera genius. But we're not here to talk about that. I just find it so fascinating because I truly never imagined in my lifetime that there would be a successor to the Bond franchise that was not broccoli related in some way, shape, or form. I know that sounds odd, by the way, but yes, like I truly thought they would own it forever, and like they are still listed. Michael G. Wilson, Barbara Broccoli will still be listed in the credits as the owners of this. They still own the rights to the book through that Don Jock Corporation that we talked about in the very, very first episode. Which, by the way, I just was doing some like skipping ahead, doing some further research, and did not realize that Cubby Broccoli almost sold Don Jock off at one point, which would have been an insane move. But I just, to me, it's so wild because, you know, that's what makes the James Bond series so interesting and different, and doesn't make it, you know, kind of these weightless superhero movies, is that they're real people behind it.
It has like the magic that Star Wars used to have. Like, even if
Yes.
it was a bad Star Wars movie, you got one. Well, you got them every 3 years, a trilogy, and then it's just like silent. It goes away, it disappears into the ether, and then it comes back. Then you get like a really bad trilogy, and then Disney buys it, and like you think it's going to be good because the first one's enjoyable and the second one looks really pretty but doesn't make a lot of sense. And then you're just like, why do we have 40,000 TV shows? I can't keep up with this. It's bad. James Bond is rare, and like, gang, I learned through all this, there was an Amazon James Bond reality show. Brian Cox accidentally got like Bill Murray Garfield into it. Fully.
That's truly the perfect way to describe that. He 100% got Bill Murray Garfield into it.
Exactly. But like, good or bad, James Bond was rare, and it was successful because it wasn't around all the time. Like, it left you wanting more in some way. Like, I know how time in movies work. If you put one out every year, you're just getting the Avengers and nobody cares about Ant-Man Quantumania.
Yeah. The and that's what's sort of interesting too, because I do think there is something to the idea that you leave the audience wanting something. You leave that idea out there that makes them. And James Bond, you know, the James Bond movies that you've seen so far, almost all the Connery movies, they were coming out once every year, sometimes every other year, well, actually at that point it was every year. And I do think, like, with the first 5, you do see the wear and tear of what happens when, you know, Goldfinger's great. Thunderball, not as much. You Only Live Twice, yikes. And that's what sort of happens when there's not that sort of freshness injected. And somehow, you know, Barbara Broccoli and Michael G. Wilson, and listen, I'm not going to praise them like saints, they're movie producers, but they had that sort of magic where they knew what it was to like give that sort of distance in between. And admittedly, like, I think during the Pierce Brosnan era, you felt that weight towards the end of his. And I think there's moments in the Daniel Craig era, obviously, like Quantum of Solace is bad, but part of that is the writer's strike, and they should have waited. You know, famously, Martin Campbell, who directed Casino Royale and also directed GoldenEye, was offered Quantum of Solace right after Casino Royale did really well. And he said, sure, do you have a script? And they said, no, but we have a release date. And he said, no, thank you. And that's why, you know, and now I'm worried that we're definitely like, we're going to get IP mined to death with this. And I think the Star Wars comparison is actually, like you said, even more apt than like the Marvel comparison, because this is a long running franchise. It has historical roots that, you know, your fathers watch this, your mothers watch this, you know, your aunts, your uncles, it moved up from that time period to now. And now it's just going to be so much like, there's going to be Miss Moneypenny show. There's going to be an M show, I'm sure. There, you know, like young M. Who needs it? It's
No, not me.
so yeah. So
no, like, just because like 1 or 2 of the Star Wars shows have caught my eye, like, doesn't mean I need 3 of them a year.
Right.
Like, and also, like, I think about how this impacts the creatives, because like, famously, like, Marvel signs people for like 9 movies at a time.
Right.
Gang, look at how many movies Mahershala Ali has made in the past, like, decade. It's because they've been spending 20,000 years trying to make a Blade movie that's gone through 20,000 directors.
Right.
And that man's been in, like, 2 things.
And it's tough too when you're dealing with a character who is human, because like it takes a long time to make a movie. It takes a long time, especially to make a big movie. And it's not even just the
Mhm.
shooting of it, it's the post-production, it's the rollout, it's all of it. And in order to cast somebody in this role of James Bond and make them commit, that's like a decade or more off their life. You know, and we have
Mhm.
currently very limited time on this planet as it is. So it's one of those things where it's like asking a lot of someone to dedicate that much time to. So yeah, you're right. Like I do, especially like all the news that's coming out about Blade now, that it might not even happen. Like what a waste of Mahershala Ali's career.
It really is. I hope he got paid for everything. He probably didn't get paid well because Marvel only pays, like, one person half well, and that is the guy who they're bringing back. We don't need to speak his name.
But
But
also,
it's
I mean, there's that on the reverse side of that. Some people leave that franchise stuff and they really set out to do like, oh, I'm going to do the art now. And it just doesn't come their way. For him, I think it's even funnier because he won an Academy Award in between and still was
yeah.
like, give me a truckload of money to do this and I'll do it. So in the continuing story of what happened on James Bond after that, Michael G. Wilson is going into retirement. Barbara Broccoli is going to continue to produce movies, but she's going to work on other things, which, you know, more power to her. And so then Amazon immediately set out to start thinking about who could take over in these producer position. I do want to point out, by the way, there's an amazing article for The Hollywood Reporter by Benjamin Svetke called License to Shill Inside Amazon's 007 Takeover, with an amazing illustration of Jeff Bezos as Ernst Stavro Blofeld. And if you have not read that yet, it came out about a month ago. I think it's well worth it. But yeah, even literally the day that they got the franchise, Bezos, I guess, was on Twitter tweeting like, who should be the next James Bond, which just feels tacky and exactly like what you would expect from a billionaire.
Again, Gavin, if we both had $1 billion, you would never hear from us.
Right.
You would be like, who are they? What happened to them? Are they dead? They're stuck in the Yellow Jackets wilderness. That's exactly what I would do. These billionaires on social media asking the most unwell, differently sane people, like, who should play just a dude? Like, what are we doing here?
I know.
Like,
The it's so funny too. It truly feels like a like the plot of a James Bond movie. Like Bezos is 100% the prototypical James Bond villain, just like a very rich old man who's trying so hard to remain relevant and popular. And sidebar, I understand. I get it. Like everybody wants to be liked. Why are all these billionaires so like desperate to be like, is the like, I know money can't buy you happiness, but is the money not enough? Is it not enough?
is it not enough? I genuinely have told like 4 different people I encountered today, I am not looking for any more friends. Like, I am good. Like, because they told me I'm nice, and I'm like, no, I'm not.
I often think of the Freaks and Geeks quote, which is like, I already have 2 friends. Why do I need more friends?
Literally me.
And it like I just think it's so, because it feels so sad. It feels like there's something that's so not fulfilled, and like literally it's like, if you really want to be popular, solve world hunger. I know that's not going to make you more money, but you could do it. Like
You'd be popular. You
you
would be
certainly would.
the Linda popular. Come on. No. But also, like, we can transition a little into something because we've talked about all these Marvel things. Of all the Marvel people, producers, everything, their choice in producers they've picked, like both of them, Not my first choice, honestly, if I was to go through the whole Marvel catalog of humans. Not my first choice, I gotta say.
Yeah, so shortly after all this came out, actually just a couple weeks ago, they announced who would be taking over in these positions. And first of all, I think it's so funny that in Jeff Bezos's brain, he was like, "We need one girl and one guy." Like he's like, "It's got it. We can't. It's got to be the same thing." They tapped producers Amy Pascal and David Heyman to steer the new James Bond franchise. And Amy Pascal, former executive at Columbia, the victim of the Sony email hack when we really got to find out who she
We're
was.
using the word victim very loosely.
Yeah, I'm trying to be graceful. David Heyman, one of the most successful movie producers of all time. I'll give him that.
One of the greatest enablers of all time. Like,
Yep.
if I saw him in the streets, I'd be calling Gavin maybe for some bail, you know?
I was going to say
I throw hands very easily for a 4'11" person.
he produced, the movie series that shall not be named, including the follow-up, the Beasts that shall not be named, with their Secrets of Dumbledore and whatnot, and then also apparently shall be producing the TV show follow-up, because is the money not enough? Like, I guess is the question.
The money not enough?
It's the question I'm gonna keep asking. Like, yeah, these both of them have had successes. Clearly, they've had successes in the past. Both of them also have a very checkered past, as Chels was just pointing out. David Heyman has worked alongside J.K. Rowling for 20 years now and has not said a single thing about her behavior, her transphobia, or anything condemning it, because he's willing and happy to continue to make money off of her.
Yeah, like, and it's been almost like a solid decade of people actually knowing, and literally, like, what, 4 or 5 years of people caring?
Yeah.
Like, come on. Like, congrats. Like, both these people produced successful Greta Gerwig films. They were not the reason Greta Gerwig was successful.
Right.
Like, I think that's her own creativity behind that. But simply, why are we here with these humans? Because, again, let's just look at their track records. Outside of a couple Tom Holland joints, Amy Pascal, failure of a producer of all these franchises. Like, look across the board, not doing great. The Fantastic Beasts films were literally cut short. Like, man, Power of Prayer, Chelsea, you know, my voodoo dolls were working because, like, they were making literally no money. Like, the theme parks were keeping them afloat. They canceled that, and they're like, I guess we're going to do a TV series, and we're going to kill John Lithgow.
Yeah. Oh, part of me,
rest in peace.
Rest in peace. Exactly. The part of me is so mad at him, but part of me is like, does he even know? Does he even have people around him who can tell him? Somebody must tell him at some point. But then, like, I don't know.
He not spoke to Olivia Colman. I know they're in a movie that's coming out together this year.
Yeah, I would love if he'd spoke to Olivia Colman and she was like, no. Oh, no. Like,
we all need an Olivia Colman who will stand up and do the right thing. I say this as she apparently was one of the very vocal people who were supporting the No Other Land directors. We got to put that out there. Like, support good things, not these trash humans producing James Bond movies now.
And then Amy Pascal, as you just mentioned, also a checkered past. We brought up the Sony hacks from a decade ago at this point. Very famously was racist in them, really shitty about certain celebrities and very gossipy. Listen, I understand nobody expects their private correspondence to be leaked, but also, like, think about this. Don't think that shit. First of all, don't send it either. But also, like, this was work correspondence. Like,
don't send it from your work servers.
Right. If you're, I don't know. First of all, I just can't. I can't excuse the racism. Like there was a bunch of
No.
emails between her where she was basically implying that Barack Obama could only like black movies, like 12 Years a Slave, and you know, it's wild. Like why it's not appropriate, but also like why then think like, oh yeah, like I'm gonna send this over an official Sony email. Like, what the fuck? Like, what the fuck? I just
Truly the audacity.
yeah. It's so yeah. So it's tough to understand. Like, I guess I understand from the business point of view why you would go with these producers, but I don't. It's wild. But neither of them have been slow to get to work. Uh, Amazon already even announced within the last couple days that there would be a release date for the next movie, which I think once again is
Cart before the horse behavior.
yeah, absolutely.
I am looking through all their past filmographies of like the last decade. They're not doing great. Outside
No.
of a handful of things, they're not doing great. You can keep this in. Like Amy Pascal produced Challengers. Yeah, it's a popular movie. It's popular on the internet. That movie, which I always tell people, you have to always just double whatever the budget is because that doesn't include marketing, and that's when you start breaking even. Challengers really did not even break even, not even for Amazon. Like it was popular, but it didn't make money. It just had millennials being like, oh, finally, something kind of like erotic-ish.
Yeah. I mean I liked Challengers, so
Yeah.
but I didn't love it. And I have said I think I
Yeah.
even said it on the mixed reviews, like it's like a CW pilot, like, but it just
Yeah.
shot really well and very well acted and had a great score. But like,
Yeah.
yeah. Um, so apparently this release date, by the way, is going to be sometime at the end of 2007, which is maybe a longer gap than most.
2027?
Yeah, 2027. Thank you. Sorry. Brain bad. And wow. Yeah, so like obviously there that means there's a pretty long gap between James Bond films. The last one was 2021, and so that gives us a 6-year gap, which will
Technically
be
2020.
was it really? Wow.
It was supposed to release, remember? Because Daniel Craig was on SNL and the world shut down. It was supposed to release like
yes. Yeah,
literally when the world shut down.
but it did come out in 2021. So like I'll yeah, that's not Daniel Craig's fault. I won't blame him for the pandemic. Not yet, at least. But
Not
yeah.
yet.
So like yeah, once again, it's the cart before the horse. Also, there has been some talk so far about how they're planning on doing this, and it seems like the great plan is to set it in either the 1960s or 1950s and go with a 20-something James Bond, which kind of throws out like who everybody thought was going to be, Harris Dickinson is 28. That's who people were talking about him for a while. James Norton is 39. Aaron Taylor Johnson is 34. Once again,
But I thought we killed him.
yeah, we
I
did.
thought we did that.
He's no longer. And also, he did say this month, somebody asked him about it again, and he said, "I don't feel like I need to have a future drawn out for me. I feel like whatever's drawn out for me, I can fucking do better." So like,
I mean,
clearly,
Star of Craven the Hunter tells us he can do better. Got it.
Exactly. So like, clearly, I don't think he's in the running anymore. He would have been a bad choice anyways, regardless. How do you feel about this idea?
Very bad.
Yeah, super bad. How do you feel about this idea of doing a retro Bond about, I mean, obviously you don't know where the series last left off, and as always, and I know this is not everybody's cup of tea, the continuity between the Bond franchise has always been a little nebulous, so it's not like it truly necessarily matters. But how do you feel about this idea of them going back and revisiting this era that they've already made films in?
It's one of those, in general, not opposed to the idea. I don't mind like a historical throwback of sorts. I worry, though, that it's trying to give permission for bad behavior that we now condone, that we call out on this podcast. The let's just say the Sean Connery-isms, the slapping of the women, the racisms and everything. Like, are they gonna let Quentin Tarantino write the script? Hopefully not. Like, it makes me worry about what we're gonna get because there's only so much of history you can whitewash. And usually when filmmakers do include the bad stuff, it's not done in a way that is careful or considerate. It's usually to exploit certain marginalized groups.
Yeah, and I think you're like kind of hitting the nail on the head because I worried the same too. And I also think that, there was such backlash for the last one in which Lashana Lynch played a new version of 007. And I'm not going to explain to you how, but she
No,
played...
I watch Doctor Who. I know how things work.
Good. I'm glad so forced regeneration. Yes, correct. And
Yes.
but Lashana Lynch played a new 007 and people lost their goddamn minds because they were like, a black woman is James Bond. She's not James Bond. She's her own character. Like literally 007 is a designation. He's been revoked of that designation several times in the films. You're going to see that, Chels. So it's like people...
I feel like we should just tell people 007 is like being the blue Power Ranger.
Yes.
And that so many people can be the blue Power Ranger. Sometimes the red Power Ranger can be the blue Power Ranger within the same like cast. Let's not be so testy about this, people. It is literally like me switching a puppy's like dog collar. That is literally the difference on this. Like, we are giving somebody a new sheriff's badge.
I would even go so far as saying, honestly, if it continues to make money on a long enough timeline, if you live to 70, you might end up as the Blue Power Ranger someday. And I'm talking to you in the audience. Like, it's just...
You might.
Everybody's going to get their shot. There's that. I don't mind them casting younger because everything I was saying up front about the idea that it takes so long to make a movie and it takes forever for a movie to come out. However, I do think with this job particularly, being a master spy who has also spent several years in the Navy beforehand, I do think it comes with a certain amount of age. So I think, to me, the ideal Bond would at least, like, the lowest age range would be 30.
I'm always like, if they're going to be like a master super spy, they have to at least be 35. Like, you have to at least be able to run for president. I tell Jesse, this is how we're still young because we can't run for president yet, technically, even though I'm 84,000 years old. But yeah, you can't, like, you have not lived at all. Like, I track it by like what my older brother who joined the Navy when he was 21 did. Guys, don't get drunk and join the Navy. That's what most people do.
Oh my God.
Hey, he can almost retire soon, though. So it's just very like, we need to pick somebody who you actually believe has voted, can rent a car, like knows how to do their taxes, can at least like knows how to read a watch and it's not just a digital watch, like analog, knows what AM and FM radio is. Like, you can look at electronics, but I want to believe maybe they haven't lived without electricity a little bit. Like, I believe Sean Connery has been in situations where electricity was not always there.
Yeah, I believe that. I just also want to point out that I am old enough to run for president, and the only reason I haven't is I wondered if I would be too popular. And so I worry.
I would vote for you and lead your campaign. As I said, I'm very powerful, both good and bad. So, those are your options.
Like, they would just make me king, and I don't want that. That's too much responsibility. So, like, I'll let other people run the government. Clearly, everybody's doing such a bang up job currently.
Crushing it.
Yeah, totally. I do want to say there has been a couple reports from former Bonds about how they feel about the Amazon sale. A lot of these were taken pretty shortly after the announcement was made. I think everybody's been kind of gracious about it. Daniel Craig said, quote, "My respect, admiration, and love for Barbara and Michael remain constant and undiminished. I wish Michael a long, relaxing, and well-deserved retirement, and whatever ventures Barbara goes on to do, I know they will be spectacular, and I hope I can be part of them." And I think that is a very polite way of saying I will not be talking about Amazon.
His publicist did their job. They did so good. Get the bonus, get the fruit baskets, y'all. Good job. That's exactly what you say whenever you have nothing to say.
Also, Timothy Dalton was quoted as saying, "It's one of the few wonderful stories we've got in film that is British. The leading character is British. We can call it our own. I have no idea what Amazon would do with it, and I have no idea what the relationship of Amazon to the Broccoli's will be, but it is a damn fine series of movies. I was watching it when I was young. We all were. It's been part of our lives, so anything that threatens it is kind of sad." And I think that's the shadiest of all the former Bonds. But as I was talking to you, Chels, before we started recording, I said, to me, it always seemed like Dalton was the one who was least like enchanted by the whole Bond thing. And like, I don't think he disliked it. I just think that he was kind of like it's a job. I'm an actor,
He very much understands that it's a business. Like, I joked before we started recording that Timothy Dalton has worked with Katharine Hepburn, who is very much like reality check, did not show up to the Oscars except one time to honor a friend and stuff, not to accept her many awards. Like, very down to earth, very like blunt. And I feel like he probably took some of that, like, because he worked with her on The Lion in the Winter in the 60s. And it's like, yeah, you're getting lessons from somebody who literally was canceled in like 1938 and had to literally produce her own career back. So it's very much like, also, he's very much a working actor. Yes, he's done a couple. How many Bonds did he do? Didn't he do like 2 or 3 or something?
Just 2.
Not a lot.
Yeah.
See, math. He's technically been in like as many Doctor Who episodes as he has James Bond movies.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like, he is a working person. Like, he understands that it is a business, but it's like, dang.
We will be doing a 24-part series on the history specifically of The Lion in Winter, though, I will say.
Yes, we will. I will have slideshow for us all. I will be recreating some of the scenes. It is honestly like the way she enters the movie is how I want to leave life. That's exactly what I want.
I love that movie. Honestly, it has some of the most clever dialogue in any film ever. I mean, I think my favorite line in it. Now we're really getting off track, but my favorite line in it is Katharine Hepburn doing. I think it's Anthony Hopkins. It's like, "Mother, he has a knife," and she's like. She says, "Of course he has a knife. I've got a knife. You've got a knife. We've all got knives. It's 11:38 and we're all barbarians." I
love her. Didn't even attempt an accent and was perfect. No notes.
Absolutely. And then, of course, we have the always willing to put his foot in his mouth, though not about this. And I think it's because, he is very much a PR magnet. Pierce Brosnan commented on the Amazon sale. He said, "I thought it was coming for some time, I guess, but I think it was the right decision for Barbara and Michael. It takes great courage for them to let go. They will still have a say in matters. I hope that Amazon handles the work and the characters with dignity and imagination and respect."
There is talk around, of course, there was a big story recently, the people in charge of the Bond franchise, this is Barbara Broccoli and Michael G. Wilson, and they have kind of handed over most of the rights. I think they're still involved to Amazon. And then there was talk immediately about what are they going to do with the rights. And a lot of people are saying, you know what, I've heard rumours that they're going to get Pierce Brosnan to reprise the role as a kind of an older Bond figure. Bond, as he has aged a little bit, still looking spectacular, I hasten to add, but... Have they spoken to you? Are you interested? Would you do it? Is it happening? When's it happening? When can I see it? Do you need someone to play Q? These are just some of the questions I have for you here.
No one's spoken to me about it. I've heard all the rumours, and listen, they know where to find me, and let's see where the wind takes us.
He added that he feels it's a given that the next Bond be British, in spite of the franchise's new ownership being an American-based company. That I agree with, actually. And apparently they put, I only saw this once and I was trying to find it today for this episode. apparently they put out a list of wants for James Bond, and it said like James Bond would have to be from the British, from the United Kingdom, and that would exclude both Pierce Brosnan and George Lazenby, because Pierce Brosnan is Irish, George Lazenby was Australian, or is Australian. So like, I don't know what I think about that. I mean, I agree. I do not think James Bond should be American. I think it'd be a bad choice.
Oh,
to make.
absolutely not. We sound like trash.
No, but I mean, even if they were doing the like British accent,
We couldn't do it. Like
Right.
the closest thing we have is Tony Stark, because that's the ideal of America, is a billionaire who goes too far, who likes space way too much. Like James Bond has to at least be, I will say, European.
I mean, I totally agree. You know, it's the I think it'd be such a weird thing to try and do James Bond with an American actor. I don't foresee that happening.
I can't think of any American actors who would do it well at
No.
all.
Oh my God, a Timothy Chalamet James Bond. I might as well just end my life.
Really gouge my eyes out. No, I would quit the podcast. We would not be doing this. You can keep that in. Cannot imagine. Like Harris Dickinson does kind of make sense to me a little bit, because he can act, which is like the first thing I looked for. And like, again, I don't think they're going to go the Star Wars route or even the Doctor Who route of finding like a woman or a person of color. Like, because
Yeah.
I'm honestly scared it's going to be Tom Holland at this point. But
Oh my God.
exactly. There's too many connections. It's either that or Eddie Redmayne. Let's get out of here.
Oh
But
no, it can't be. Eddie Redmayne's another one that like is
he's
not.
going to be a Bond villain. Just you wait. Just you
He's
wait.
Such a bad actor, though.
This is my prediction. Write it down. He's going to be a Bond villain.
Yeah, the person I was championing for a long time was Riz Ahmed,
Oh,
and
he's so hot.
he's so hot.
Yes.
But now I even think that he's like, I really think you got to grab these guys at like at a certain point of their career, and if you don't, it's like, because at this point, also I wouldn't want to see Riz Ahmed like stuck in a role. You know, I wouldn't want to see him
Yeah, like,
tied down to that.
and like he's only 42, but making these James Bonds took how many years of Daniel Craig's life? What,
Exactly.
15-ish years at least?
Ugh, I saw
More
a-
if you include the actual like promotion. No.
I saw a really gross article today that was like, Daniel Craig's body doesn't look like this anymore. And it was an image from Casino Royale. And it's like, hey, guess what? Daniel Craig's body never naturally looked like that. That is the result of training and like building up to play James Bond. Like,
And human growth hormones, everybody. Like
most likely.
every
But
Marvel
Let-
superhero buff guy has done that.
let me just protect you by saying allegedly. Just-
Allegedly.
Thank you.
Allegedly.
But yes, yeah, I digress. Like, it's not, his body just never naturally looked like that. I'm sorry. It just doesn't happen that way. I do want to point out, just in a fun little bit of news, Helen Mirren is currently out doing press for Mobland, which is a TV show that she's in with Pierce Brosnan. And they did ask her about James Bond. And she said, quote, "The whole series of James Bond, it's not my thing. I never liked James Bond. I never liked the way the women were in James Bond," she said, adding that she doesn't want to see a woman portray the fictional spy. "I would tell real stories about extraordinary women who've worked in that world," she continued, offering the example of the amazingly, unbelievably courageous women who are part of the French Resistance. I mean, I'm actually very good with this take. Like, I think it's so funny that, you know, but I do also think it's funny that she's like, no, like, tell real stories. And it's like, I mean, yeah, I guess.
Here's the thing. You can tell that she watched some documentary
Right.
about French resistance the week before this, which, like, good for you, girl. There probably are some cool stories in there. We know you love a biopic. You got an Oscar for it. Like, more perfectly fine, Helen Mirren. You're correct in I think, I'm not saying a woman shouldn't play James Bond. Nobody put it out there. It's just like, I'm not looking for that. Like,
Right.
I don't think that will fulfill any need for me because, like, no offense, I do this podcast. I don't care enough about film producers who are just trying to make $2 billion a movie just to break even. Like, I'm not worried about that. I think so much more things are impactful because of television, honestly, and finding actual meaningful ways for like representation. I don't think James Bond becoming a Jamie Bond, for instance,
Yeah.
is gonna help anything in this world right now. But it's also just like, Helen Mirren, you're interesting. I want to have a conversation with
Right.
you.
Exactly. No, and I was nodding along with you over everything you were saying. Yeah, I agree. Like I'm also not putting it out in the world that I don't want a female James Bond. I would love a great female spy series.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, I do think that there is a more interesting way to do it than just being a money grab. Yeah,
Like,
give us
oddly
a
enough, I'm
sequel
just
to Atomic
like-
Blonde.
A sequel to Atomic Blonde. Give us Salt 2.
Salt
Angelina
2.
Jolie can still do everything.
She truly
I would
can.
love a Salt 2. She can do everything. Let her. She's free now. So it's just like, I am the person. It's like, yeah, just let a woman, give her her own franchise. Let's just do stuff. But then it's also like James Bond. One, I would never wish that kind of level of scrutiny upon any actress because like Daisy Ridley and Brie Larson and Kelly Marie Tran were like driven off social media. Like
Yeah.
these studios do nothing to protect their stars. And it's just like, I don't wish that upon people for a movie that might be okay.
Right, exactly. And then just the one last little piece of advice while we still have this file open of this current events, this dossier, if you will. Bruce Glover, who plays one of the henchmen, one of the main henchmen, I should say. I want to give the respect on his name, Mr. Wint in Diamonds Are Forever, which is a movie we've not covered yet. It's actually, funny enough, even though this episode is coming out in between Thunderball and You Only Live Twice, it is the next episode we're recording. But I just did want to dedicate this episode to Bruce Glover. He's Crispin Glover's father. I'm very curious how you're going to react to Bruce Glover in Diamonds Are Forever because he plays part of an openly gay henchman duo called Mr. Wint and Mr. Kidd. And let me tell you, it is handled as sensitively as you can imagine for the early 70s.
Oh, wow. So it's going to be perfect. There's
Yeah.
not going to be anything wrong with this. Got it. It sounds
Hashtag
so
representation
fun.
matters, you know?
Hash browns. Yes.
browns.
Oh, this
yeah.
should be interesting. I love being prepared for a yikes moment.
But yeah, I was like, while we're here, we might as well pay respects to the just dearly departed. But, you know, I think that closes up this debriefing. If you guys want to hear more special episodes like this, let us know. There are plenty of ways to contact us. You'll be hearing about them in just a moment. But yeah, case closed on this. Thank you for listening to the Q Division. If you'd like to listen to our previous episodes, we're available anywhere you listen to podcasts. Please make sure to rate and review our show while you're there. You can also find us on Blue Sky and Instagram at QDivisionPod on both, or you can email us at qdivisionpod@gmail.com. Chels, remind the agents where else they can find you.
I'm Chel725 on Blue Sky, on Letterboxd, on Serialized, which is TV Letterboxd. You can log per episode. And y'all, that's where you'll see where my mental health is. And if you can find my Tumblr, you're going to have a great time. So find me there. And then at And a Rewatch Podcast, we're dropping episodes about Yellow Jackets and Mythic Quest, Side Quest, and so many fun things happening over there.
And you can find me on Blue Sky if you really want to do that. I'm at it's Gavin. That's SHHITSGAVIN. You can also find me on Instagram at GavinMev. And you can find my other long-running film podcasts at The Mixed Reviews on any podcast platform. It's co-hosted by my good friend Louis Rendon. To find out more information about the mixed reviews, please visit glitterjaw.com/mixed-reviews.
And if I may give you a compliment before we get out of here, everybody go listen to the Saoirse Ronan episode. Future Bond villain Saoirse Ronan is great episode, great guest, and I love that. So Saoirse, I do want to see you in a Bond movie. Go get your paycheck, girl.
I genuinely looking forward to her being a Bond villain. It's funny too because I almost included a sound clip in that episode of her talking about it, but the interviewer then was like, well, with the Amazon sale, and she was like, oh yeah, I don't know, like, so who knows?
I mean, there's the Amazon sale, but then Amy Pascal, who produced Little Women, right there.
Very true. Very true. All right, agents. Until next time, we hope we left you shaken, not stirred.